So we just started talking about it. JB Bickerstaff, fired from Cleveland. The Cleveland Cavaliers fired him in May. Would they get eliminated in the second round of the playoffs? Mm-hmm. So he's had success. I guess Cleveland just felt they should have performed better. I liked how Cleveland played basketball. I like how they came together as a team these last 2 years with a lot of players I really like, but weird fits. Like when we're talking Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen,
Isaac Okoro.
Who's the big guy who was drafted Cade's year?
Evan Mobley.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I thought they played really well. I thought they played team defense. He's creative offensively, but he's a defensive-minded head coach. And although the NBA is going scoring, I really like having some guy like this, both with experience and some creativity on offense and defense, to come and just reset this organization from a basketball standpoint.
Yeah, and sometimes, and some of the rumors I kind of seen out there is that maybe Bickerstaff, despite how good he is of a coach, didn't quite mesh with Donovan Mitchell, which is an individual that we just saw the Cleveland Cavaliers make a long-term investment to. Mm-hmm. Obviously, these are rumors. It's not something that I know on a personal level, so I don't want to put that out there as if it is gospel or truth. But those are some of the things that have kind of gone around the kind of interwebs. And so maybe Bickerstaff is a better fit for this Detroit Pistons team, which is kind of rudderless right now, without a player of the kind of that has that the level of aura that a Donovan Mitchell brings with him to an organization. So Bickerstaff will be able to come here, understanding that Trajan Langdon made this hire. Trajan Langdon made this hire. Everybody understands this. This is something where you got to do what this guy says do, because this is what the organization. This is what the CEO of the organization, the voice of the organization, as it relates to Detroit Pistons basketball, has now stated. And so from that perspective, I am hoping that the players that are here and anybody that they see fit to bring in kind of follows his voice. Because you guys are right. The defense that we saw, despite what some people say about his inability to make, offensive adjustments in a pinch, the defense that we saw and the steps that we need this Detroit Pistons team to take, JB Bickerstaff will help this team take those steps if they listen.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in. When you pair that with the expected Cade Cunningham max, these two are now going to be tied together. They can start fresh. And although we probably said the same thing with Monty last year, like,
this one feels a little different.
It does.
Just
it
a
does.
little bit.
And I don't understand how people can say Monty, swim circles around JB Bickerstaff. I don't think Monty Williams is a bad coach. I just think last year, I think it's an outlier, and I think there was a million different things going on. His personal situation, it wasn't the right time. It should never have happened. I wish him well, but I like this new energy coming into the building. Yeah. When you add guys like JB Bickerstaff, we're talking about a 5-year max. We're bringing in veteran. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's a half a year. There are going to be more contracts that the Pistons take on this year. But when you start bringing in guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., it just feels like we can actually start over. A lot of people have been maybe clamoring or thought we're going to have to move on from a Jaden Ivey or a Duren or a Beef Stew. Mm-hmm. They're still here, but it still feels like a new team is brewing. Does that make sense?
I think what it is the Detroit Pistons were in a position to take this step this way. So when you added Tim Hardaway Jr. to this collection of young talent with the cap space that you have in the basketball-minded Trajan, you feel really comfortable about what's going on. If you added Tim Hardaway Jr. to the team that, Troy Weaver stepped into, or the team before it that Ed Stefanski and Arn Tellem were kind of GMing and president of basketball operating, then you're not as excited about it. And so I don't think you throw away the positives that had happened before as if that they're not a part of the foundation. You're giving Cade the max right now. That came as a part of the previous foundation that just didn't get it done overall. But in terms of what Trajan's able to do, I'm believing that he has a better eye for what the talent on this team is than maybe we believe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what that represents. That he's like, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, because we still don't know what's going to happen as free agency plays itself out. Maybe Trajan Langdon sees something in these young guys, and he's like, let's just bring in a couple of the right vets like they tried to do the previous couple years, but let's actually get vets that can play. Let's get vets that will contribute. Let's get vets that mesh and fit a little bit better with our young talent to give them their best potential to succeed. Because we see these other squads like the Orlando Magic going out there and getting just the right types of vets We see the Houston Rockets going out there and getting just the right types of vets surrounding the young player. It's not even like they're going out there and, getting 5, 6, 7 new additions. They just adding like 1 or 2 players, and their teams are just taking off. I'm hoping Trajan Langdon has more of an eye for that if the patient route with the young players is the way they're going to go.
Yeah, and that's really all it is, because he's proven that if you field the right kind of team with the right kind of players, he can't turn this into a winning situation. His last 3 years with Cleveland, all winning seasons. Of course, we know about the playoff mishaps, but, at first I was kind of iffy on it. Not to say I hated it. I didn't hate it, but, I had to digest it a little more. And then after, looking into it, I feel better about this hire. To me, yes, Monty may be a better coach on paper, but JB Bickerstaff is the better fit. And for one, he wants to be here, so that's automatically gets you probably more wins than you had last year. He wants to be here, and yeah, man, he came from a lot of shit situations, for lack of better words, man. I think he started with the Rockets right behind the Kevin McHale firing, then in Memphis behind the David Fizdale situation. Does a year there, gets fired. So while he's had a lot of success, it's going to be, up to him to prove that, he's more the last 3 years than earlier in his career. So
and they took over for John Beilein.
Yeah.
And that ushered in a rebuild for the Cavaliers, and it was ugly for a couple of years. And Ryan's reaction, I hope this actually was enough background. I was going to tee up Kool-Aid for it, but KG just crushed the history of JB Bickerstaff. But he had taken over for that mess that was, the post-mortem of John Beilein in Cleveland, and really truly ushered that rebuild into what I think is a team that can contend consistently in the Eastern Conference for a couple of years, depending on what they do. I like that roster a lot. And maybe Darius Garland, maybe he wants to follow JB Bickerstaff to Detroit.
Maybe.
And for me personally, I liked candidates like maybe Sam Cassell, who just won a championship with the Boston Celtics. We've talked about these candidates on these airways plenty of times, Brad Hendricks. Other people like Chris Quinn as well. I was hoping the Detroit Pistons could go out there and take a swing at that. Maybe some first-time coaches like a Sean Sweeney. But this, to me, signals that maybe the Detroit Pistons have some place and plan to help lead these young players. They don't need a coach who's learning on the fly. Any of the young players you're going to keep, I believe they need a guy like a JB Bickerstaff.
They absolutely need stability at this point in their franchise. And you're getting a guy who is way more relatable to the young talent than Monty probably ever will be or ever was. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like you said, he's defensive minded. You have a Ron Holland, you have an Asar Thompson on this team. So I'm interested to see how he works with all these pieces. Of course, there's more work to be done still, but looking forward to what he can maybe bring, man. He's got a fire too. He ain't no slouch, man. We know about the videos of him arguing with refs on the sideline as well. He's got a little fire to him.
I like it.
Oh yeah,
I like it. Let's keep the conversation. Let's keep the conversation going here into the next segment. It's a great transition because Kool-Aid was at Ron Holland II's press conference.
Yes, sir.
And I want to play a clip of Kool-Aid just dropping great questions for these players to answer. Want to talk about this Cade Cunningham contract, Tim Hardaway coming, Quentin Grimes going, some of the other moves that might be happening.
And it's cool to be able to kind of talk Ron Holland, Cade Cunningham in this segment, because one of the other questions I got to ask him, I don't know if I'll be able to get the clip up in time, was about their connection.
Okay.
They've been we'll talk about it. Cade Cunningham, Ron Holland.
Hold the good stuff.
Yeah.
Hold it. Let me tell you first about Dispo, because this summer, it must date way back. I'm not going to touch that.
We play lawyer games now. That's what we doing.
So did you hear how Freddie Felt 313 coined a new nickname for the Pistons coach? JB Bickersmooth. Actually, Bickersmooth.
Yeah, 4 O's, 1 V.
Yes,
JB Bickersmooth.
Yeah. Hey, I like.
Let's hope he Bickersmooth.
Listen, that's what I'm saying. It's like this isn't one where I'm going like, yeah, that's the guy that I wanted, but it's just like, it's not a bad hire. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's a bad hire or Tim Hardaway is a bad pickup. Like, these are things that I believe with Tim Hardaway. I like the fact that he plays. He's going to be available. We're not talking about signing somebody who's a little bit hobbled. And then if he does ball out, you're looking at an expired contract in which you can get even more capital. You know, they got some draft capital being able to participating in this deal. And down the road, if he balls out, you can definitely flip him. And if you believe, you know what, he's right in terms of that vet voice in the locker room and can also be on the court and play and help our young guys, then you talk about something long-term at a cheaper contract.
Yeah. I love the move. I love that this is the type of expiring contract they're taking on, a veteran shooter, and for however long he's with us. There's nothing you need to worry about with Tim Hardaway. I know he didn't get much time down the stretch. He kind of got worked out of the playoff rotation for the Mavs. Yeah. But he's still, I think he averaged about 14 points during the regular season before he got hurt near the end. And I got to know him actually pretty well. We went to Michigan together.
Of course.
And he is a good dude. And he did sign that contract. I think I don't want to say derailed his career. He's been stuck in Dallas when they haven't been as great. Yeah. But he signed that massive contract after performing in New York with the Knicks. And it just kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's just been stuck down in Dallas. But he's that type of guy, whether you have him coming off the bench, maybe he starts at the beginning of the season. He's one of those wing players that can really help. I don't want to say he's a two-way player anymore. I don't know what kind of defense he can provide. But catch and shoot threes,
let's say this.
That veteran presence, I dig it.
I like Jaden Ivey. And Tim Hardaway Jr. actually has a higher defensive
really?
Yeah, defensive rate than Jaden Ivey.
That's wild.
So it's
makes sense.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping is that someone like the Tim Hardaway can come here and help players like Jaden Ivey take that next step, in their development in their game. So
KG.
I'm looking forward to
I
it.
wanted to ask the question because I feel with that trade, Hardaway, he's going to end up being maybe a trade target, if he comes in and plays well.
Possibly,
I think Trajan may be looking to move him to maybe acquire some future assets. Do you think that's the plan for Tim Hardaway going forward?
I think it's the option.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we said. You got both options available here. One in which if he balls out, you're looking at a player that you can flip for more assets, more than you already got in taking on his contract.
Yeah.
And then if you believe, though, that this is the right vet voice, like you talking about this guy, he gels with the squad. He's a good co-leader for Cade Cunningham. He's a good mentor and a teacher for these wings and these guards. Then you're looking at a guy that you're trying to get back here on a little bit more long-term deal on a cheaper contract, especially for a guy like Tim Hardaway, who we know, shout out to his father, too, Tim Hardaway Sr. Man, he used to throw some basketball cans back in the day.
Yeah.
But, when
one
you
of the best crossovers of all time.
One of the best.
If not the best.
Yeah.
The best crossover. Not the best ball handler of all time, but did he have the best crossover, or at least
one of them?
Was the first?
One of them, definitely.
One of them.
Yeah.
One of them. But shout out to them. It's like, he wears his emotions on the sleeve, and he just put it out there like they want to be somewhere where they're wanted. Probably especially at this point in Tim Hardaway's career. And it was cool to see how excited he was about it as well, posting all over socials. But, to answer your question, you got to keep the option open. If he plays well, you got to get more assets in him.
Yeah. And you wonder how much this probably isn't at the top of the reason why they brought him in. Maybe it wasn't even considered, but having played with Luka, we talk about Cade having a somewhat similar game, or at least there's some similarities in their pace of play and stuff. Being a veteran wing who played with Luka, I'm sure he's got some tips to help Cade along. Let's just real briefly, since we're on the free agent topic, we're on the expiring contract. Before we start talking Ron Holland, there were some other moves that they made. And obviously, in this trade, Quentin Grimes went to Dallas.
Yep.
He's probably a guy Dallas is going to buy out or cut. I don't know if he's in their long-term plans, but they signed an undrafted free agent out of Mississippi State, a forward center, Tolu Smith.
Yeah.
6'11". I don't know much about him, but I know he's the dude's got a motor. He's from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Played at Mississippi State.
I need to get more familiar with his game. Like, I look forward to diving into. I know he's going to be on the Summer League roster. I sent in the credential stuff and everything, talked to the people, so it's looking good for your boy. Going to be out there and get to talk to these guys.
Yeah. You're not going to see Buddy Boeheim, the guard forward. He was waived from his two-way contract. Yep. And they declined the $19 million team option for guard Evan Fournier. Mm-hmm. This is a salary cap move, right? Yeah. This clears up a lot.
Yeah. It was what everybody knew. As soon as you traded for Evan Fournier, everybody knew that contract was not going to be on those books this coming season.
All right.
Yeah. And I just wanted to elaborate on the Hardaway trade. They got 3 second-round picks, and I remember you were saying last week that second-round picks are a little bit more valuable. Of course, on the surface, people looked at that and was like, that's not really doing much in terms of trying to build a war chest. Can you elaborate and explain why the second-round picks may be a little more valuable this time around?
Well, one, with this coming draft, is loaded straight up.
Yeah.
So second round picks are already going to take on a little bit better value. But there are some rules within the CBA that make it a little bit better for teams to be able to, and a little bit more valuable for teams to have second round picks based on the way that the guarantees are with the aprons and all these new rules. So these second round contracts, they become very, very valuable when you talk about trying to move contracts off the books.
Yeah.
We just saw that's what Dallas just did, right?
Yep.
And so those 3 second round picks, they become something valuable coming to Detroit, as well as if they want to turn around and be able to, like the report said, flip those second rounders into low level first round picks.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I dig it. Let's talk about Ron Holland real quick, because next segment we're going to dive into the free agent market. I got a game, snatch or scratch, coming up next. I'm going to put some options in front of you.
Right.
And there's some hypothetical.